Managerial decision making. Learning objectives. After studying these slides, you will know the kinds of decisions you will face as a manager, how to make rational decisions, the pitfalls you should avoid when making decisions, the pros and cons of using a group to make decisions, the procedures to use in leading a decision-making group, how to encourage creative decisions, the processes by which decisions are made in organizations, how to make decisions in a crisis. Following are the characteristics of managerial decisions. Risk, lack of structure, uncertainty, and conflict. Lack of structure, the usual state of affairs in managerial decision-making. Programmed decisions, decisions that have been encountered and made in the past, have objectively correct answers, are solvable by using simple rules, policies, or numerical computations. Non-programmer decisions, new, novel, complex decisions having no proven answers. Decision maker must create or impose a method for making the decision. Comparison of types of decisions. Comparison of programmed decisions and non-programmer decisions. Programmed decision approach to a problem. Frequent, repetitive, routine. Much certainty regarding cause and effect relationship. Non-programmer decision to a problem. Novel, unstructured. Much uncertainty regarding cause and effect relationships. Programmed decision approach to a procedure. Dependence on policies, rules, and definite procedures. Non-programmer decision approach to a procedure. Necessity for creativity, intuition, tolerance for ambiguity, creative problem solving. Business example for a programmed decision. Periodic reorders of inventory. Business example for a non-programmer decision. Diversification in new products and markets. Uncertainty and risk. Certainty, have sufficient information to predict precisely the consequences of one's actions. Uncertainty, have insufficient information to know the consequences of different actions. Cannot estimate the likelihood of various consequences of their actions. Risk, available information permits estimation of the likelihood of various consequences. Probability of an action being successful is less than 100%, and losses may occur. Good managers prefer to manage risk. Conflict. Opposing pressures from different sources. Occurs at two levels. Psychological conflict, individual decision makers perceive several attractive options. Perceive no attractive options. Conflict between individuals or groups. Few decisions are without conflict. The stages of decision making. Identifying and diagnosing the problem. Generating alternative solutions. Evaluating alternatives. Making the choice. Implementing the decision. And evaluating the decision. Identifying and diagnosing the problem. Recognize that a problem exists and must be solved. Problem, discrepancy between current state and past performance. Current performance of other organizations. Future expected performance. Decision maker must want to resolve the problem and have the resources to do so. Generating alternative solutions. Ready-made solutions, ideas that have been tried before. May follow the advice of others who have faced similar problem. Custom-made solutions, combining new ideas into solutions. Evaluating alternatives. Determining the value or adequacy of the alternatives. Predict the consequences that will occur if the various options are put into effect. Managers should consider several types of consequences. Success or failure of the decision will affect the track record of the decision maker. Contingency plans, alternative courses of action that can be implemented based on how the future unfolds. Contingency plans are necessary to prepare for different scenarios. Making the choice. Maximize, a decision realizing the best possible outcome, requires searching thoroughly for a complete range of alternatives. Each alternative is carefully assessed. Compare one alternative to another. Satisfies, choose an option that is acceptable although not necessarily the best or perfect. Compare the choice with the goal, not against other options. Search for alternatives ends when an okay solution is found. Optimizing, achieving the best possible balance among several goals. Implementing the decision. Those who implement the decision must understand the choice and why it was made. Be committed to its successful implementation. Can't assume that things will go smoothly during implementation. Identify potential problems. Identify potential opportunities. Always expect the unexpected. Steps in the implementation plan. Determine how things will look when the decision is fully operational. Order the steps necessary to achieve a fully operational decision. List the resources and activities required to implement each step. Estimate the time needed for each step. And assign responsibility for each step to specific individuals. Evaluating the decision. Collecting information on how well the decision is working. Evaluation is useful whether the feedback is positive or negative. If decision appears inappropriate, the process cycles back to the first stage. The best decision. Nothing can guarantee a best decision. Must be confident that the procedures used are likely to produce the best decision given the circumstances. Vigilance, decision maker carefully and conscientiously executes all stages of decision making. Barriers to effective decision making. Psychological biases. Biases that interfere with objective rationality. Illusion of control, a belief that one can influence events even when one has no control over what will happen. Framing effects, how problems or decision alternatives are phrased or perceived. Subjective influences can override objective facts. Discount the future, weigh short-term costs and benefits more heavily than longer-term costs and benefits. The avoidance of short-term costs or the seeking of short-term rewards may result in negative long-term consequences. Time pressures. Today's economy places a premium on acting quickly and keeping pace. In order to make timely and high-quality decisions, one must focus on real-time information. Involve people more effectively and efficiently. Rely on trusted experts. Take a realistic view of conflict. Social realities. Many decisions result from intensive social interactions, bargaining, and politicking. Pros and cons of using a group to make decisions. Potential advantages. Larger pool of information. More perspectives and approaches. Intellectual stimulation. People understand the decision. People are committed to the decision. Potential disadvantages. One person dominates. Satisfying. Groupthink, team spirit discourages disagreement. Goal displacement, new goals replace original goals. Managing group decision making. Leadership. Avoid domination. Encourage input. Avoid groupthink and satisfying. Remember goals. Constructive conflict. Air legitimate differences. Stay task-focused. Be impersonal. Play devil's advocate. Creativity. Brainstorm. Avoid criticizing. Exhaust ideas. Combine ideas. Managing group decision making. Leadership style. Leader should attempt to minimize process-related problems. Leader should avoid dominating the discussion. Encourage less vocal members to express themselves. Mitigate pressures for conformity. Stay alert to groupthink and satisfying. Prevent group from losing sight of the primary objective. Constructive conflict. A certain amount of constructive conflict should exist. Cognitive conflict, issue-based differences in perspectives or judgments. A constructive type of conflict can air legitimate differences of opinion and develop better ideas. Affective conflict, emotional disagreement directed toward other people that is likely to be destructive conflict. 2 techniques used to purposely program cognitive conflict. Devil's advocate has the job of criticizing others. Dialectic, structured debate comparing 2 conflicting courses of action. Encouraging creativity. Creativity is essential to survival and involves creation, bringing a new thing into being. Synthesis, joining 2 previously unrelated things. Modification, improving something or giving it new application. To become creative, one must recognize creative potential in little opportunities. Obtain sufficient resources. Escape from work once in a while and read widely. Brainstorming, group generates ideas about a problem. Evaluation of ideas is postponed until all have been proposed. Organizational decision making. Constraints on decision makers. Organizations cannot do whatever they wish. Following are the constraints of organizational decision making. Financial, legal, market, human, organizational. Models of organizational decision processes. Bounded rationality, decision makers cannot be truly rational because they have imperfect, incomplete information about alternatives. The problems they face are so complex. Human beings cannot process all the information to which they are exposed. Time is limited. People in the organization have conflicting goals. When the conditions above hold, perfectly rational decision-making gives way to more biased, subjective decision processes. Incremental model, major decisions arise through a series of smaller decisions. Piecemeal approach to larger solutions. Coalitional model, groups with differing preferences use power and negotiation to influence decisions. Used when people disagree about goals or compete for resources. Garbage can model, a chaotic process leading to seemingly random decisions. Occurs when people are unsure of their goals and what should be done. A dramatic departure from rationality in decision-making. Negotiations and politics. Negotiations necessary to galvanize the preferences of competing groups and individuals. Organizational politics, people try to influence decisions to promote their own interests. Use power to pursue hidden agendas. Create common goals, helps to make decision-making a collaborative, rather than a competitive process. Decision-making in a crisis. Stress and time constraints make decisions less effective. Should be prepared for crises in advance. Mistaken assumptions, how not to handle crisis management. We don't have a crisis. We can handle a crisis. Crisis management is a luxury we can't afford. If a major crisis happens, someone else will rescue us. Accidents are just a cost of doing business. Most crises are the fault of bad individuals, therefore, there's not much we can do to prevent them. Only executives need to be aware of our crisis plans, Why scare our employees or members of the community? We are tough enough to react to a crisis in an objective and rational manner. The most important thing in crisis management is to protect the good image of the organization through public relations and advertising campaigns. Plan for crisis management. Following are the actions of crisis management. Strategic actions. Technical and structural actions. Evaluation and diagnostic actions. Communication actions. And psychological and cultural actions. Emergent strategies. The strategy that evolves from all the activities engaged in by people throughout the organization. Result from dynamic processes in which people engage in discovery, implement decisions, and reconsider the initial decision after discovering new things by chance. Emergent strategies may start at any organizational level. Emergent strategies are generally the result of constructive processes. Emergent strategies. Discovery. Systematic gathering and analysis of the facts. Monitoring outcomes of actions. Choice. Set objectives. Generate options. Evaluate and select acceptable, feasible, suitable option. Action. Implementing chosen option. Correcting deviations from plan.